So, Mike, for today, let's talk about how do we shift our focus? How do we focus away from the storm and focus on the light at the end of the tunnel? And obviously, you know this being a coach, and maybe in your own health and fitness journey, we can talk about that in a little bit, Mike. Adversity that you had to go through, whether it's an injury, whether it's a curveball, whether it's stress at home or maybe stress at work, whatever the case may be. Because let's face it, I always say it like this: anybody can do anything when life is easy, but that's not life. Life's going to be challenging at times. Life's going to be throwing us curveballs left to right. And typically, when those storms hit, it's a lot easier to focus on that more than focus on what matters the most. And maybe that could be someone's own health and fitness journey. Maybe that could be someone's goals. Maybe it could be starting a business or anything like that, right? It's about knowing how to constantly keep your eyes on the prize despite the roadblocks ahead. So let's give them some value today, Mike. And let me give you a background story. So when I was leaving Vegas, okay, Uber driver came to pick me up to bring me to the airport, and I'd never been to Vegas before. So I'm asking the Uber driver, I'm just like, hey, so pretty much like, he was asking me, he's like, hey, did you come here? You're a young kid. Did you come here to like gamble or drink or anything like that, party? I said, no, that's not even like anywhere near my forte of things to do. I was here on a TV show and, unfortunately I'm leaving early. So I'm just headed back home to Cleveland. So he's like, oh man, so this was your very first time in Vegas? And I said, yeah. So he gave me the background story and I didn't know this. And maybe you guys did. I didn't know it, but like Vegas was pretty much started from the mob. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You did know that. See, I live under a rock. I didn't know any of this stuff. So he gave me the background story how it was like pretty much just Vegas and then Reno, and like that's like the two major cities, but pretty much like the mob was trying to flee and that's where they set up everything. Somebody else also told me that Vegas at one point, like long, long, long time ago, was just covered with water at one point because you could see like the outlines of some of the like the mountaintops on the side, the red rocks. Have you heard that?
That I didn't know.
Okay. That might be just somebody's telling me, some other wives' tale, something like that. But, anyways, I asked the guy. The guy's name was Sam. He was my Uber driver. Okay. And I said, so Sam, were you born and raised here? Like, how did you come to Vegas if you weren't? And he told me this crazy story. Okay. And this is why, once again, I want to have this conversation with you guys to provide some value, provide some tips on just shifting your focus. There's one client that I know for a fact he's going to be watching this recording and he's definitely going to need to hear this right now. He had a private conversation with me earlier this week and he's struggling as well. Just things going on in his own life that he's just like, he seems to can't just get clear, if that makes sense. Can't get out of like the storms that he's dealing with. And a lot of the storms that he's dealing with, it's inside his own head. He needs to shift his focus. So here's the story on Sam, okay? Sam was actually in PA, just like you, Mike, and he moved to Vegas. Pretty much what he say? 12, maybe like 12 or 13 years ago. And he said that he was living in PA, Bethel. Is that familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Bethel, PA. He found a girl online, right? Moved to Vegas or picked up all his stuff and left to Vegas. And when he got to Vegas, there was no girl, right? And pretty much like he said he got his identity stolen, bank account information, all that stuff, like literally had a great life in PA, moved everything to go over here, had nothing at the end of the week, like literally nothing at all. So I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, and I'm like, man, I can't even imagine that, right? Like somebody stole your identity, all this stuff, and I'm kind of questioning him, like, hey, why didn't you move back or anything like that? He said, dude, I had nothing, like literally not a penny to my name. So what he did was pretty much had to start from ground zero. At this time, I think he said he was like in his early 40s, pretty late in life, but had to kind of rebuild himself. He said that when people steal your identity, which I didn't know at all either, he said it could take anywhere from 6 months up to 20 years before you can actually get your identity back, like social security, bank account information, like everything. He said he pretty much had to start just square one, doing some side jobs here and there, picking up some cash, making some extra money. Eventually, he was able to afford a car where he's currently working at Uber right now. And he loves Vegas. He said, like, hey, I would never move back. Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I asked him, I said, hey, I want you to think about like 12 years ago when that first happened. I'm putting myself in your shoes, Sam, right? Like you got nothing, not a penny to your name, no social security, no bank account information, like literally nothing. The amount of anxiety, the amount of worry, fear, doubt, all that stuff. How did you not live in that? Right? Like that would have personally just eaten me up alive, you know? And he told me this, which I got on my phone. I saved it because I was like, Sam, you got to say that twice. I got to talk about this on a podcast. He said, when you get what you want, that's God's direction. And when you don't get what you want, that's God's protection. So he said that. I'm like, man, that's like so crystal clear. Like I needed to hear that, especially in that moment. Like sometimes it's like we want, we want, we want. And when we don't get the things that we're trying our hardest for or expecting, or let's just say a storm comes up, right, on our health and fitness journey, an injury, adversity, anything like that, right? We often forget that sometimes it might even be God's protection, you know? So the reason why I want to start off with that little story is because obviously, Mike, we're health and fitness coaches. Our job is to guide, our job is to lead, our job is to help, right? And you understand
Absolutely.
with some of the clients, like, hey, they're going to be going through some storms. Jeff K, you're on today's call. We're going to go to you in a little bit, brother, because you went through a lot of storms. Tom, I see you on here, right? You would go through a lot of storms with the business as well, right? Like these are things that just happen to us where we go through these different seasons of life. Mike, bring us down memory lane, right? Like you got signed up with Heartletics, what, 3 years ago?
Almost, yeah.
Okay, has it been a perfect, easy journey?
Heck no, man. I mean, I think what, 5 months into my journey, my mom passed away unexpectedly.
Yeah,
There's, huge life, one of life's huge curveballs right there. Um, but what got me through that is, I've lived it day to day. What can I do today to make it better than yesterday?
yeah, yeah. So if you don't mind, right? Let's go back to that because you said that was probably one of the biggest challenges that you had to go through in the midst of your health and fitness journey.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what helped you stay focused? Because like putting everything aside, right? Whether it's an injury, whether it's a loss of the family, whether it's travels even, right? Like where your focus goes, your energy pours out to, you know? And if let's just say somebody's underneath they're traveling a lot for work, and they have a particular goal, right? Let's just use a weight loss goal. Like, even if they're traveling a lot, they're still going to be wise into making better decisions, getting a workout in because they're trying to achieve this set goal, right? But most of the time, when somebody throws us curveball, or I should say, when life throws us curveballs, we lose that focus. We're like, oh man, like, why am I even showing up? Like, I just don't feel like it. I don't feel motivated, which obviously, that's an emotional thing, right? It's like these things that take us off course. But the number one thing that helps people have success at reaching their health and fitness goals, and obviously this, is just being consistent, just showing up, not trying to be 100% better or 50% better, just 1% better, just literally showing up. But they need the right focus. They need to focus away from the negative onto like, hey, even if it's just like a small little slither, a light at the end of the tunnel, hey, they still need to focus on that. I'm not saying that all the adversity, your mom passed away, like all that's going to be magically healed or all the pain and suffering is just going to go away. No, it's still going to be there, but it's just that we're not focusing so much on it. So, what would you say kind of helped you, Mike? Stay focused, keep your head in the game. Where obviously, I mean, you can speak about this if you want. You probably had that good wolf, bad wolf conversation, that battle going on left to right in the midst of that storm, where it's a lot easier to, be lazy or be compliant or, just go back to your old ways and not show up for yourself. So, what kind of helped you stay focused?
Uh, Honestly, it was just, my mom's voice in the back of my head telling me like, this isn't what I would want you to do. Keep doing what you set out to do and be proud of what, the progress you can make, again, I point to progress over perfection.
Yeah, yeah, that's key. And I like that a lot. It's like you flipped the switch. Yes, it was a negative thing that happened. It was a sad thing, right? A loss of your mother, but you almost use that as like a fuel, like a driving source. Like, hey, I remember her in the back of my head saying, like, hey, don't stop, keep going, type deal,
Yeah, because one of the last things that um she said to me was that she was proud of what I was doing. So that's always stuck back in there for me.
Yeah. That's probably like the best feeling in the world hearing that, honestly. It's like your parents saying that and maybe like your kids saying that also, you
Yeah.
know? So let's just use this for example. Because you already mentioned about that, right? The death in family. What about like an injury or who knows? Maybe like you've done a bunch of check-ins, obviously helping me out. What if somebody's struggling? Like maybe they just don't feel motivated or they're not getting best results and they feel discouraged or they're like in a star plateau. Like once again, bad wolf versus good wolf, right? We start getting these conversations going in our heads. What would you tell them to focus on and shift that direction? Like, what would be some practical tips just kind of help them?
You
To,
know,
it doesn't even matter what season of life they're in.
yeah, I would say, one, make smart goals, right? Pick something small that you can achieve, that you can achieve, and use that as a win and build up on it. Small wins every day build up to big progress.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. And I love your idea way better than mine. I was going more about like the gratitude route. But like, I really like what you said because if you think about it, we need to start counting our wins more and more. That's how we build confidence, right? Is seeing all the good things that we're actually doing, despite even if we're in a storm, right? It's like, hey, let's use an ankle injury. Somebody can't go to the gym, somebody can't even walk, but maybe they can do a good job at hitting their protein goal or do a good job at drinking plenty of water. That's a win. So instead of focusing on the injury, they can focus on some things that they're able to succeed at. Any other ways or tips or things that you want to throw in to help somebody shift their focus?
Well, I mean, your point exactly, be grateful. Yeah, your ankle might be hurt, your shoulder might be hurt, your neck might be hurt. I went through shoulder and neck recently earlier this year, but there's still something you can do, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, there's something small that you can focus on and get that win and get that progress, even if it's not physical, it could be mental, right? Uh,
absolutely.
you know, uh, Gratitude, affirmations, and it all kind of points back to flipping the script in your head. What you're saying to yourself, you're going to believe, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. And sometimes like that's the hardest conversation or hardest relationship actually to have is within yourself. So man, you had some golden nuggets in this one, Mike. I like this. Um, Jeff K, we're gonna come to you and then Tom. If you also want to talk on today's podcast, that'll be great because obviously you went through some storms as well. Cool. I'll come to you after Jeff K. So Jeff K, you can say as much or as little as you want, brother, but you went through a roller coaster ride. What was that time frame? 8 months, 10 months?
Longer.
Longer. What
I,
would you mind expressing and explaining a little bit about what happened just for people hearing the replay? They might not know about all this.
I mean, I'll do a little nutshell. I
Okay.
was working in a company that I left now almost 4 years ago to the day. Very happy there, but they were selling and going to move. They were going to move too far away from my commute. And I knew when they sold, I'd be out of my butt because a bigger company would gobble us up and then probably get rid of me. Made sure everything was okay. And I moved on to another role that I thought was great. Just taking a back seat, basically, a lesser role, making the same money. 2 months later, I get fired.
Yeah.
I get fired because I was finding errors in their financial statements that my boss should have figured out. And he didn't want to take the fall, so he fired me. And I was
And
really, really embarrassed. I'm
and
like,
that was 2 months into your Heartletics journey or 3 months?
that was 4 years ago. It was before you.
No, I meant like when you recently got fired from the other place.
Last
That's what I'm
place.
talking about. Because
But well,
you were working there when you first got started here. I remember that. Because then
yeah,
I
no,
obviously remember.
I was there for a year and a half. But with you, when I started chatting with you, I was there probably 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Okay. So now, in terms of where you're at today, employed, how long did that take from the whole entire unemployment journey? We'll just start with that.
7 months.
Okay, 7 months. So during those 7 months, And you can be open, you can be honest as much as you
Oh,
want.
yeah.
Were you ever at times fearful or had anxiety, worry, doubt, anything like that?
I was a big stress ball. At the beginning, I'm like, oh, it'll only take me a month or two. It'll be okay. But as the months started going and you apply for jobs, you get interviews, and you have to wait because as much as you want the answer now, a company is not pushing themselves to get you hired or anybody. So it took a while with therapy, a
Yeah.
lot of it, which I go every other week. Like, I don't know how often others go. Um, and my village, as I call it, you and my lovely wife and friends, but it's a village that keeps you going. Um, and then it just, you know, over and over again, my therapist kept saying, it's not your fault. You have to be patient and grilling it into my head until I started to realize, okay, it's going to be whatever it'll be. I'm on unemployment. I'll make my ends meet as best I can. Some things I won't share that I had to do financially. And, you know, thankfully I got this role. It's a contract role and I did something. This is definitely out of my comfort zone what I did on Monday. I thought about it over the weekend.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with my boss about me potentially applying for a role that they had offered that was higher than what I probably have done. And he said you could probably do it in like 6 months, but I need that candidate now. And I thought about the role and looked at the description. I'm like, this new person is not going to do what I'm doing daily. So I did this whole long, basically a proposal to him of information of how I broke apart the role, put it into your friend and my friend, Mr. ChatGPT. It put it back in a proper order for me. I reread it, added a few more things to it, and then I sent it along to him in an email because we had talked about some pieces of it previously. And I was trying to talk him into giving me the role that was originally posted, which is the role that I'm doing, but they've added strategic planning to it, which I've never done, but I'd like to try.
Yeah.
But since then, there's just been little things that he's told other staff people and other vendors, well, we have this new accounting manager on board. And instead of just saying a new accounting manager, he's now been saying my name. So I'm like, well, how is that going to look if I suddenly disappear from the contract role to the outside world? So I'm hopeful, but
Yeah.
I never would have sent that. It was like a five paragraph statement to him just with my thoughts of what I think, what I know I can do, and what this new person could do
Yeah.
separately. And we got on 3 new clients since I started a month ago.
That's good.
That's
That's real
awesome.
So
good.
and I said to him, the more clients you get in, the more day-to-day work I can do where this person is not going to do. I didn't say it clearly that way, but
Yeah.
so
So I wanna pause real quick and I want to backtrack to what you said earlier because you kind of spilled the beans. You kind of went ahead. I was going to ask you, so any tips, and you already went ahead and jumped the ship and gave them, right? And so you said about talking to your therapist. I think that's great. I see my therapist every other week, and I tell this to everybody: you got to vent, right? Like most guys struggle with that so much, but you got to get it off your chest. You
I
mentioned
do all
about
the time.
you mentioned about your village, right? Which is your wife. You mentioned me, the community, all that stuff, which is great because accountability, support, guidance, all that stuff. So, would you say, like, were those the main two things, is getting stuff off your chest and having the form of support, or is there anything else that just helped you shift your focus, right? Where it's just like, that's the main topic for today, is how do we shift our focus away from the storm and on something that's just going to make it just be better. I'm not saying it's going to clear the issues, right? It's not like you're going to
But it
instantly get a
helps.
job immediately, but it helps. Exactly. What, any other tips that you want to add in there?
I mean, I also, which falls under your jurisdiction, but you need to get it out someplace. Weight training, me with golf as often as I can. It used to be years ago, my venting got out through playing racquetball. So it's some other means to get the stress out, and it makes you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, I appreciate you, brother. I'm very happy for you. Very, very happy
Thanks.
for you. Tom, let's go to you next, brother. If you don't mind unmuting yourself, and you can say as much or as little as you want, but obviously you on your health and fitness journey here at Harletics, it hasn't always been just an easy journey, right? Maybe that
That's
was
true.
injuries, maybe that's stress at home, stress at work. What have you helped you, right, in the midst of the storms that you were in? Remember, we're talking about just shifting our focus. So you can say as much or as little as you want. It's all about just providing value, helping out those that might be in just a hard time in their life, where they see nothing but red, if that makes sense.
Yeah, basically just tagging on to what Mike and Jeff has said. I think the biggest thing I believe is the mindset. You have to frame things not only in the context in which you are, but sort of like what's the outcome you think that's going to be. So in my case, my wife's had a lot of surgeries recently, and so I've been the caretaker. I'm still the Lyft driver for taking her every place that she needs to go because she can't drive because of her vision issues, which are slowly apparently getting resolved. I can't say that for sure yet because she still doesn't have enough clarity to drive. So anyway, but it is getting better, and we're very thankful for that. In the meantime, struggling with the business to keep it going and bringing in more customers because of the losses we've had in the past and so on. That double adds to the stress, right? So I think
Isn't it what they say, when it rains, it pours?
it pours. In fact, it's been raining buckets for so long.
Yeah, it's almost like you
Yeah,
feel like you're in like in the Bible, right? The book of Job.
exactly.
It's just like, man, when is this gonna end?
When's it going to end? But you know what? It's interesting. Just recently, ran across Romans 8:28. Everything works together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. And the thing is at the face of it, when you're in the midst of something, you go, well, how can this be good? Or how is this going to work out for good? But if you look at the context in which that was written, Paul was writing to the Romans when they were under severe persecution and it was not a happy time and all that. And yet he's telling them that this is all going to work out for good. And in fact, my wife was saying when she had her knee replacement, and people were saying that to her when she was in pain and all that, it's all going to work out for good, that she hated that verse. And she still is hung up on it today because she's reacted to it like, this, how was that good and all that. And I said, you got to reframe it. Look, you're walking now, yes, you still have pain and all that kind of stuff, but hasn't it worked out for the good?
So hold on, pause. I gotta interrupt you, Tom, because I really like what you're saying. I'm picking up everything you're putting down. Somebody else, though, it might be hard for them because they're in the midst of the
Yes.
storm, just like your wife. So let's
Right.
let's say a health and fitness perspective, right? Let's say
Right.
somebody's very overweight, they're insecure, they don't like to exercise, they don't like to work out, they hate going to the gym, even thinking about it. And it's like, they have to go through that journey where in the beginning they're not gonna like it. Most people don't like it in the very beginning, right? And then
Hmm.
eventually, hey, it becomes easier for them. They start building up better habits and they're lost all
Yeah.
this weight, less
Yeah.
joint pain, all that stuff. But it's like they had to go through that suffering in the beginning. So think back about what you said about your wife, maybe you on your own health and fitness journey here at Heartletics, and maybe some of your surgeries that you had with also maybe your back. It's
Yeah.
just like, think about that. Like, what if somebody's going through a storm right now? What would you want to say, right? Because it's easy to paint the picture, but what if they don't feel it? And what if they
Well,
can't see it?
yeah. Yeah. The timing of saying that verse, I think is where the challenge is for anybody where you can see it, but the other person probably isn't going to react positively. So I think prefacing a comment like that is you say, what do you think the outcome is going to be? Going through all of this, and get them to start framing it, hopefully going towards a positive direction, and that, and say, can I share something with you? And then you can like bring that verse in and explain like when it was sent, who it was sent to, and what they were going through. So it's looking for a positive outcome in the long run. So I think you just have to assess the situation and the person, and pick your words accordingly.
Yeah, that's the key word. I'm trying to find it right now on Google and I can't. But have you ever seen that image where it's like choose your hard and then it's like eating healthy, exercising, working out. It's hard to
Right.
do, but then
Right.
also it's like being lazy, eating junk food and all this other stuff that's a negative. It's hard to do as well. Where it's like you do this one hard thing, your life gets better down the road.
Yeah.
But then this, you choose your life to be easy, right? Lazy, complacent, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's hard down the road, you know?
Yeah. I just I saw a quick blurb from my buddy Dean Graziosi recently, and it was interesting because we always think about like, where are you now? Where do you want to go? Right? We're always talking about that, and he talks about that a lot. But he kind of reframed it a little bit. So it's like when you say, where do you want to go? Is you're leaving where you are to get to where you want to go. So when you're making the decisions, you're changing your direction to leave something to go towards something that you want to get to.
I
So
like that. I like that a
I
lot.
just I really that really clicked,
Yeah. Yeah.
that really clicked.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you're in a relationship, a bad relationship, you want to get out of that bad relationship to go to a good relationship, right?
Yeah.
Or if the weight loss, body fat loss, whatever, you want to go from you have this and you want to lose it and go to this. And again, it's outcome. It's about the outcome. So I think I always have to look at that, because even with the business issues that we still have, um, what at the end of the result, what's the outcome going to be if we're consistent, we keep showing up, we don't give up, keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like what you said about with Dean. I like that. It's a sacrifice, right? You got to cut
Yes.
like, going back to somebody that's overweight, they got to cut something out, whether that's
Right.
bad habits, laziness, whatever.
Yeah. And the outcome is better health.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I want to go back to what you said earlier, and then Jason, I'm gonna pick your brain also because you've been through some storms. You mentioned about the number one thing that helped you out, right, when it comes to shifting your focus, Tom, is your
Yep.
mindset, right? So what if somebody is listening to this recording and they don't even know what that means? How would you describe that, or at least give them some practical tips to help them adapt that mindset? Because think about it, right? Somebody might be in that storm right now and they're like, man, Tom just said mindset. I want to work on mindset, but what does that mean? Do I like take a little plastic weight and start doing like head crunches? What does that mean?
That's it. That's the secret right there.
That's it.
No, basically we always talk about the good wolf, bad wolf, right? Well, or there's always two voices, okay? And one is either going to keep you from doing something, the other one is going to get you to do something. So basically you got to keep trying to focus on the good one to do something, and it's moving in a positive direction. Everybody has their own stories. We've talked about this before. That you've got your stories. You have imposter syndrome. You got I'm too old, I'm too young, whatever. Well, if you keep telling yourself those stories, you're going to stay where you are. If you
Yeah.
reframe that and tell yourself a new story and keep focusing on that, you're now changing your mindset to, again, going from here, we're going to go over there now.
Yeah. I love that. I love that because you literally just gave the golden nuggets for anything, right? Which is the story that you tell yourself over and over again. That becomes your belief system.
It
Like
is.
you hit the nail on the head, Tom. Hey, I'm too old, or I haven't been able to get in shape, or I haven't done all this stuff. Like I always think about like Roger Bannister, the first person ever run a 4-minute mile. As soon as he was able to do that, it's been like hundreds of people after him, right? Because he broke that self-limiting belief for everybody, you know? Now, to tag off that, Tom, and go into Jason, Jason, you had to tell yourself a new story. And I want to bring up before you even talk about anything affirmations, because that was literally a verbal speech that you had to tell yourself that you hated with a passion in the very beginning, but then eventually you start to click, right? So Tom just gave the golden nuggets right there. Hey, you need to change your mindset. You need to start telling yourself a whole different story. And somebody that might be struggling, and just in case you don't know, Jason, because I know you kind of tuned in a little bit late, I'm recording this. It's all about just shifting your focus. That's the main topic, right? Is just shifting your focus away from the storm, whether that's adversity, doubt, fear, stress, injuries, anything like that. Not saying that the pain's going to go away, but just shifting your focus, even if it's on a small little mustard seed of faith on something more positive. So before we talk about that, let's go into affirmations with you, Jason. Um, that helped you out, as you mentioned early on different episodes, how that really helped you with your mindset. Can you explain that whole background story, how you felt doing the affirmations, and then maybe some of the changes that occurred mentally between doing them?
Yeah, because Tom hit that nail on the head. It's about the story you got to tell yourself, and affirmations is one way of changing that story. Because prior to Heartletics, I was a negative Nelly, I'll call myself. The sky was always dark. There was never anything good about the world. And so, starting with Heartletics, you really focused on the mindset at the beginning, right? Fat loss, that's part of it, but shifting that mindset is where the real money comes in. And affirmations is one of those things that I've done before in the past, and I look at myself, I'm like, this is just hooky, and I don't believe what I'm saying.
Yeah, most people don't, man. It seems
Right?
weird.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you just have that negative feeling inside you, and it's a hard thing to change, but it's like a muscle. It's just like doing a bicep curl. You want bigger biceps, you just got to keep working it out, right?
Yeah.
And so we started with affirmation. And it's just starting small. You don't have to go for the big pie in the sky. It's just small. My name is Jason, you know, simple little things. And I just kept doing that every day, even though I hated it. I hated looking at myself in the mirror because I still didn't believe it. But after a while, it started clicking and I believed in it. And then to this day, I still do it because I love them.
I want to talk about that a little bit more if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
when you first got started, let's do a little plug-in real quick. When you first got started with Heartletics, how much did you weigh?
It's about 350, 360,
And how much do you currently weigh right now?
241.
Now, when you first got started, you're about 360 pounds. Do you think if you had to tell yourself, hey, I'm 250 pounds, I'm 250 pounds, and you're staring yourself in the mirror every single day, I'm 250 pounds, do you think like that would just almost kind of hurt you, right? Rather than help you, because you're staring yourself in the mirror every time you get out of the shower, like you don't see 250 pounds. Like you step on a scale, you don't see 250 pounds. So like, do you think that would hurt you rather than help you?
Yeah, because it's not believable, right? It's got to
Exactly.
be something that's believable at the same time of being there, right? So
Yeah, so you gave a huge golden nugget, which was don't give yourself something so crazy high in the sky. Give yourself something that's true, that you know is true with 100%. And you literally just said, I am Jason. That's your name. It's on your birth certificate. It's on your driver's license, right? I am Jason. And then you could add something in there also. And it doesn't have to be I am Jason. I have six-pack abs. I am Jason and I have $1 million business, right? It could be just like, I am Jason and I'm choosing to show up today. I am Jason. I'm choosing to work hard today. I am Jason and I'm choosing to be more disciplined today. Like, do you think that's going to be a lot easier to say to yourself and actually believe?
absolutely, because it is, because that's what I'm working towards, right? It's not fake because I'm actually doing that.
Yeah. And so now for anybody out there that's listening, hear me out. start just saying that. Your name, right? And then what are you deciding to do today that you're working towards? Whether that's helping you in your business, helping in your health and fitness journey, helping your relationships, helping your finances, anything like that, right? You can then use your imagination, visualize afterwards, but start with just those affirmations, because what typically happens is, hey, we go to the bathroom, brushing our teeth, and then I don't know about you, Jason, but I know that like what I typically hear from most guys is they have a hard time staring at themselves, right? They're either looking at like the chest and they're like, man, I hate these things, or, looking at their stomach, oh, I hate these rolls, or, just having a hard time actually staring at themselves in their eyes because they're seeing nothing but flaws. But now what you do is a pattern interrupt. So now it's like, hey, instead of you brushing your teeth and staring at all the flaws and all the things that we want to change, now we're brushing our teeth and we're literally just saying our name and what we're deciding to do today and who we're striving to become. Was it first awkward? Like, I guess, do you say affirmations in the mirror or do you just say them out and about?
Both now. At
Okay.
first, I started in the mirror because I had my little affirmation card up there. Like you said, I'd brush my teeth, I'd look at my card, and I would say it.
Yeah.
Wasn't the most pleasant thing to do, but it did.
Yeah. And then it becomes easier. Repetition, right, is the mother of all learning. So this is good.
Absolutely.
And I love how Tom kind of brought it up about changing your story, and affirmations is a great tool. So now to wrap things up, to go back to the main topic, which is shifting your focus away from the storm, away from the negativity. And you can think, actually, Jason, obviously you lost over 100 pounds. Was that all sunshine and roses? Or did you, let me ask you a better question, right? Have you ever dealt through an injury?
Yes.
Have you ever dealt through any stress?
Yes.
Have you ever dealt through any kind of travels?
Yes.
Have you ever dealt like you didn't feel like showing up today?
Yes.
Okay, so we can see here, right? Like it's not all sunshine and roses, okay? So think about that, right? In terms of your own health and fitness journey with athletics, what has helped you, or I guess what would you say is valuable, right? For everybody that's listening and watching the recording afterwards, what is some practical tips to help somebody just shift their focus away from the storm, whether that's an injury, adversity, stress, curveball, anything like that, just shifting from the negative to the positive, from the bad wolf to the good wolf. Like, what do you think can just help somebody shift their focus?
One of the things I've learned over the last couple of years is, if, let's just say I got a knee injury and I can't walk or do legs or something.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what I can't do, I can focus on what I can do. And sometimes it's easier said than done, right? But I can focus on my nutrition. I can focus on my water. I can focus on working on my mindset. Just because I can't use my legs right at the moment doesn't mean I can't do something else. So there's always something we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're choosing, right? As a choice. You're like, hey,
Yep.
I'm choosing to find the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm choosing to
Yep.
look at the glass being half full rather than half empty. What can I do? Because I mean, if you think about it, right? Most guys in general, we struggle with a lot of stress, and typically most of it is like way outside of our control. We can't even physically do anything about it. But yet it destroys our mindset. It destroys our discipline. It destroys our focus. It destroys our motivation, right? It stops us from progressing and trying to be better, So it's a choice also to either listen to that or listen to the good wolf. And I like what you said because it's now a choice where you can take action. What can we actually physically do? Where we can actually get out of our own head and get into our heart, get back on track, whether that's drinking water, working our mindset, journaling, affirmations, something physical that we're actually taking control over. Anything else?
No, that's spot on. I love that stuff. It's all about just moving forward. Don't ever stop moving forward. You can fall down, but get back up and keep going.
Yeah. Mike, you might know this. If anything, is like a Chinese proverb, right? Like fall down 7, stand up 8. Is that something?
That is something.
I was like, they must go over that in one of the martial arts. Phil, we're tuning in, man. We're doing a quick little recording, and we're talking all about just like how do we shift our focus from a negative to a positive. And obviously, you right, like you understand with anybody that's on today's call, you're going to go through some storms, especially on your health and fitness journey. It's not all sunshine and roses, right? Like there's injuries, there's stress, there's feeding the bad wolf, there's falling off track, there's all these different things. And everybody's been giving some super great tips. Mike talked about, you just doing something small, picking up a win, building momentum off of that. You know, we talked about gratitude. Jeff talked about, you know, accountability and support and just venting, getting stuff off your chest. Tom talked about, you know, your mindset, really working on that. Jason picked up with that with, you know, affirmations. And, you know, Tom also talked about the story that we tell ourselves. So obviously, like, you understand, you know, so Phil, for you personally, what has just helped you turn away from the storm, right? The bad wolf, and just shift that focus, not saying that the storm's going to go away, but just shifting our focus to something more positive to help us just, you know, stay on track.
Yeah. For me, it's just like forgiving myself and moving on, quite honestly. That's the big thing because I get hung up in the past and like I like to negative self, no, I don't like to, but I do. I like to negative self, self-talk myself and tell myself that I'm a failure and all these things, and that's just what comes of it. But I have to move past that and tell myself like it's okay, you're still in the process, you're still doing what you're supposed to be doing. Just go forward, stop looking backward, and just keep going forward because, I'm miles away from where I was 5 years ago, even in terms of growth and, physically or mentally. So that's for me, that's the biggest key, man. I just got to forgive myself and move forward. Otherwise, I'll just get stuck.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that because that's hard for most guys to do. It's hard for them to talk about their feelings, and it's hard for them to forgive themselves.
Yep.
A lot of us hold that shame, guilt, embarrassment, even where it's just like there's regrets deep down inside of that, where it's just like we still hold on to that. And in AA meetings, right, and go through like the 12 steps, they talk about this thing about carrying the rock, right? And I'll give you the quick story. I'll try to give you the rundown. I'm not very familiar with it, but pretty much like there's this lady named Mary, and she's carrying this big rock. And apparently she's trying to get to all of these people that's on a boat. And everybody's saying, Mary, drop the rock. Mary, drop the rock. And she's trying to swim with this rock and just keep on sinking, trying to come up for air, keep on sinking. And it's not until she does a full surrender, a full letting go, dropping the rock, where then she can then swim to the boat and obviously get to safety. And I feel like we all kind of struggle with that. You know, that's like our own like insecurities or our flaws or anything like that, where we're like, we're holding on to something. And what you just said is like the key to unlocking it and actually letting go, forgiving yourself.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's huge, huge.
Yep.
Guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate you guys that spoke up. Great tips. Hopefully, obviously, if you're in a dark place right now or a lot of negativity or just fighting a storm, fighting a battle, take some notes on what was said in today's conversation, and hopefully it can be able to help you guys out.